It's time for Media Meltdowns, and the media has not stopped lying about Charlie Kirk's assassination. This was Jimmy Kimmel on Monday night suggesting that the leftist monster who killed Charlie Kirk in the most evil way possible was part of MAGA.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff.
Yeah, he said it, a new low. Jimmy Kimmel Live has been pulled off the air indefinitely by the ABC, and good riddance. I've had enough of these lies about MAGA, about Charlie, and of course it's not just Jimmy Kimmel. Here is CNN's Caitlin Collins insisting that we have no idea what could possibly have motivated this monster to kill Charlie.
You said a lot there, and we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governors had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know.
We don't have a motive yet.
What's happening with?
Really, that's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened
Senator.
to fire the gun in celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said, and I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said
They've
to
said that
family
he was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who hated
roommates.
Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, well done, Ted Cruz. Authorities have spoken publicly about the suspect becoming increasingly political, increasingly left-wing, and of course was in a relationship with a man who was transitioning from male to female. And here is this ABC News reporter describing the text messages between the suspect and his trans boyfriend, where the suspect admits in these messages to killing Charlie. And this AB News reporter describes these text messages as touching.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who was transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
I mean, how sweet. This murderous monster was romantic. It's just disgusting. And here are the hosts of Cleveland's largest newspaper's podcast suggesting that the shooter was probably conservative.
How do we know what the motivation was in most of these cases? We don't really know what it was in Kirk's killing.
We don't, exactly. And everyone's trying to put him in a box, and they can't do it.
Right. He came from a conservative upbringing, right? That seems to be a lot where his politics align. And also, look at the shooting of Donald Trump last summer. We don't know what motivated that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this really is one of those political knee-jerk reactions where, and of course, you draw the death penalty into it. We've now ratcheted up the emotions to a level 10. And there needs to be some level-headed thinking around this issue right now.
These lies are obvious, they're intentional, and they have to stop. But finally, let's go to MSNBC, because MSNBC suggests that all the celebrations that we keep seeing on left-wing TikTok accounts, people celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder, well, they're not actually happening.
I think if you look across media generally, you have seen a lot of people trying to grapple with Charlie Kirk's legacy and what that is as a right-wing agitator and as a provocateur and as, a strategist and the most important GOP figure besides Donald Trump, arguably ever. And so, or right now. And so there's a lot of grappling to do, but to suggest that the internet is cheering for this is just the opposite. Total opposite of what's actually happened.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ, great to see you again. So many lies from the media. I mean, it's absolutely effed up. Can I get your reaction to the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel's show?
I'm disgusted, to be quite frank about the rhetoric that we just heard in those clips. So to be quite frank, I thought that you had to be funny to host a late night show. And so I think this decision by ABC is long overdue to pull Jimmy Kimmel's show. At the end of the day, if this was something that happened to those on the left, we would be condemning it. We would say that it was wrong. Why can't those on the left do it? Well, it says a lot about them and a lot less than it does about us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jimmy Kimmel could actually be probed by federal investigators after telling his audience that Charlie Kirk's suspected killer was a MAGA supporter. Federal Communications Commission boss Brendan Carr told podcaster Benny Johnson that he's considering an investigation into Kimmel and his network. And you know what? I support an investigation because there has been so many lies. I'm so sick of hearing from so many different outlets that, this suspected murderer could have actually been a Trump supporter or his parents were conservative. I mean, the evidence is out there. Authorities have made it clear that this person was increasingly political and more left-leaning, had a trans boyfriend. I'm so sick of mainstream media outlets just ignoring some of the facts.
I'm sick of it too. And as you said, there has been every single strand of evidence that has, arisen throughout this entire ordeal has proven that this was a far left-wing radical influenced by the transgender agenda to commit harm and commit violence. Anything else is a departure from reality and a departure from truth. And so, we also saw it from here, at the University of Alabama, where I'm currently at, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where we hosted a memorial event for Charlie Kirk. We had a professor say right-on-right violence was out of control. Right on right violence. This was someone who put on a bullet, catch this fascist. I'm sorry, Gabriella, you know this too. Conservatives don't speak like this. Supporters of President Trump don't speak like this. This was someone who was mentally ill, but also too corrupted by the woke mind virus and used that to commit harm in a way that was absolutely irreparable and absolutely just unforgivable.
100%. And that woke mind virus, you can see where it's spreading. A Texas State University student has imitated the assassination of Charlie Kirk while threatening TPUSA members with violence at a Charlie Kirk memorial. Let's look at this.
Charlie Kirk got hit in the neck. Oh my God.
Texas State University's president has announced the school has identified and expelled that student. I mean, FAFO, but there's just been so much awful commentary around Charlie Kirk's death, but it's really frightening to see someone go the next step and imitate the assassination.
You're exactly right. I think I've shaked my head more in this segment than I ever have before on national television, because this is truly sad. The fact that there are people on the left who are absolutely, dancing on the grave of someone who lived their entire life about, promoting God, promoting family, promoting love of country. And now they're saying that because of that, for some reason, because the warped ideals have been spread across platforms, that he was some racist. I've got to tell you, I've known Charlie Kirk since I was 12 years old. He was never a racist. Being pro-America doesn't make you anti-Black. And it's unfortunate that so many people across this country have fed into that lie. And I got to tell you, they need to be held accountable. And thank God that Texas State has great leadership and they've expelled that student from their campus, because he has no place being on any campus of higher learning if he's going to act like that and act like a blatant animal.
Well said. Now, some Democrats can't even get Charlie Kirk's name right. Here is Jerry Nadler getting Charlie's name wrong multiple times.
The murder of Charlie King to go after free speech is not a legacy I believe Charlie King would have wanted.
CJ, what planet is he on?
What planet is he on? He's one on which that doesn't have term limits. And I think that's exactly what we need. He has no business being in the People's House. He has no business being a member of Congress. And thank God he decided to retire, and he will soon be no longer a member of that body. But, here's the deal. Everyone will know Charlie Kirk's name. Erica Kirk was absolutely right in her remarks. Her tears will be a battle cry that is heard all around the world. So if Jerry Nadler doesn't yet know her name, trust me, he soon will.
Well, another story rather that the media refused to cover and we will not move on from is, of course, the murder of Irina Zarutska. Now, a grand jury has indicted the man accused of fatally stabbing Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. DeCarlos Brown Jr. has been formally charged with first-degree murder, and the case now advances to the Superior Court, with Brown's next hearing scheduled for October 16. And if he's convicted, he faces a sentence of life in prison or, if sought by prosecutors, the death penalty. But Irina Zarutska's family have expressed their enormous grief. They said that we're heartbroken beyond words. Irina came here to find peace and safety, and instead her life was stolen from her in the most horrific way. They went on to say that no family should have to go through this. This could have been anyone riding the light rail that night. We're committed to making sure this never happens again. Now, CJ, this case, this horrific case, has also just highlighted the huge issues with crime and basic safety, I should say, in public spaces.
No, you're exactly right. And yet we still have Democrat mayors and Democrat governors fighting against President Trump's, mission and agenda and his mandate that he was given by the American people just last year to make America safe again. People want to live in safe communities. They want to feel safe on public transportation. They want to feel safe as they walk down the streets of their neighborhoods and their communities. President Trump is fighting for that each and every day. And so for all of these progressive liberals and, all of these folks that are, in these local communities to fight against that, it goes to show that they don't actually give a damn about their community. And so I'm glad to see that we have a president who will fight tooth and nail to ensure that we never have another case like what we saw in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's no place for it in this country. This is the United States of America, not a third world dystopia.
Mm-hmm. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has revealed that more than 150,000 patriotic Americans have applied to work at ICE to help the agency carry out deportations. Now, CJ, it certainly seems that Americans are really answering the country's call to serve here.
They are. And, I got to say, again, going back to the president's mandate, this is exactly what he ran on, exactly what he said he would do, right? He said he was going to make America's border secure again, and he was going to make America safe again. And this also, I think, is a benchmark to prove that Americans support exactly what he's doing. They're rushing to the gates to join ICE. They're rushing to the gates to secure our border because they know that a border security is national security, and God bless them for it.
CJ Pearson, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.